Hey, everybody, welcome back as we continue to hash out these critical elements about the foundations of strategy, why it's important, and then some critical elements that we want you to be familiar with as you continue to study this idea of strategy this semester. Now, so far, there's probably one term that you've heard me speak about if you watch some of the other videos a number of times already has come up, is this idea of competitive advantage. Now, competitive advantage is going to be one of these things that is kind of the name of the game as we continue moving forward, and we'll continue to understand why that is as we keep going. But what we want to do first is make sure that you have a decent grasp of this idea of competitive advantage, what it is, and what our aims are for our competitive advantages. So a competitive advantage is just something that we are able to achieve when people are drawn to buying the things we have to offer over other people. That's the entire intent of a competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is basically this idea of like, what is some element about our business that we do better than other people that gives us a significant leg up in this area that will hopefully drive people to purchase what we offer over what our competitors have to offer. Nothing too difficult there. We just want to keep in mind, though, that much as the hot button issue for a lot of things in business right now, our best competitive advantages are always going to be ones that are sustainable. And we're not necessarily talking about it in this sense of like let's say like an environmental sustainability idea, right? We want something that is durable. We want something that will stand the test of time, something that will not just hopefully lead to a short-lived positive outcome for our organization. Our absolute best competitive advantages are going to be things that are very difficult for other people to catch up on or gain access to, that will hopefully give us a sustainable, long-lasting leg up over our competitors. And it can be lots of things. You know, these sustainable competitive advantages can be our workforce. They can be access to certain resources, access to capital, access to specific markets, strategic partnerships with people. They can be processes we've put in place that other people don't know how to implement. The opportunities are abound. Competitive advantage can be determined by a whole lot of things. But regardless of what it is, we want it to be sustainable, because a sustainable competitive advantage is basically when, you know, this preference for your product that people have as a result of your competitive advantage is durable and long lasting. Right? Despite your competitors' efforts to try to nullify that advantage or overcome its appeal, it will stand the test of time. And that is a difficult thing to achieve at times, right? And the reason that we really stress this is because a strategy that produces, you know, a short-lived or what we would call like a non-durable competitive advantage has very, very little appeal whenever, you know, our competitors can quickly overcome it or find ways to offset that competitive advantage for us. It's just really not that valuable to us, right? And it brings me back to this idea of, if we talk about competitive advantage from what we usually call the VRIN framework of strategy, right? Value being determined by rarity, inimitability, and non-substitutability. So let's just think of it this way, right? Just like any other product, value is determined by these ideas, so should our competitive advantage. So if we find that we have some leg up, we want that leg up to be inimitable, and we want it to be non-substitutable. Hopefully, if we can find that overlap between these ideas, we're sitting in a really good place, and we've found hopefully an advantage that will lead to a sustainable long-term advantage over the people we compete against. So a company's strategy to achieve a sustainable competitive advantage has to be based on elements that cannot quickly or inexpensively be copied or overcome or substituted by something that our rivals could do. And you can be damn sure if you find a good sustainable competitive advantage, people are going to be on the hunt for how to do that exact thing. So we just understand that, like, the things when we identify or when we do case analysis later in the semester on identifying what the competitive advantage is for a firm, we want to understand that our best things to identify as potential gateways to competitive advantage are those things we do better than others, we have access to better than others, that are inimitable. They cannot quickly or inexpensively be copied or overcome. If we can find that, we're sitting in a great spot, and we have found kind of like the gold that we've been looking for, that thing that we really think will lead to us having a leg up over our competitors. Now, this begs the question, of course, how do I achieve that kind of sustainable advantage, right? It's not an easy thing. It's not just something we can say, all right, I think we want to do this, so let's just pick something out of a hat, and I think that'll probably lead to our overall success, right? Well, surprise, right? Not quite that easy. So how do we achieve that type of sustainable advantage? Well, there are a lot of ways. We will talk a lot more through a lot of these ideas as we continue on. Just remember, this is just the first time we're going to expose you to these ideas and talk through them real basically. So we could either, become what we call a low cost provider by, let's say, making sure that the value we offer people is based off the fact they can get from us what they could get from other people, but they get us from us cheaper, right? Think of, let's say, Walmart, one of those kinds of places where you can get those things other places, but can you get them as cheap? No. Their sustainable competitive advantage in some capacity is that low cost, providing for people. We could potentially offer them value by saying you get more bang for your buck with us. We offer them more value for the money they spend. We might be able to develop some sort of expertise, as I was talking about earlier, a process, some resource, some capability that's really valuable to how, let's say, we produce our product or run our company, that can be very valuable to the process, lead to, let's say, cost savings or value differences in the products that we create that our rivals also create. And something that hopefully they cannot easily overcome, as we've stressed already. We might offer differentiating features when we start talking later about this idea of taking a competitive approach of being a differentiator. We might offer some different characteristics or offerings with our same type of product someone else offers, but they get a differentiated one from us. Or we could just focus on better serving these unique needs of some sort of niche market. There may be a smaller subset of the bigger market that wants something very specific, very, very, minute, that and specialized, that the larger market doesn't necessarily care about. If we want to just focus on one of those and be a provider for a very niche group of people, sometimes that can work very well as well. And we'll talk more about these different approaches as we get into our competitive approaches later in the semester. But just remember, competitive advantage, it's that one thing we do that others cannot or will not do, or things that we have access to or can do that other people cannot easily or inexpensively overcome or develop in order to compete with us. So keep these in mind. I think you'll have a great idea about what competitive advantage is all about.